Welcome to Lean6leadership. That's the lean with the number 6leadership.com, where I discuss the ins and outs of quality engineering, management, program, project management, and how to apply it to your life. I'm a certified Six Sigma Master Black Belt and a recovering project management professional. I have been in manufacturing in one sort or another for the last 20 plus years. This episode, we're going to talk statistics. I'm not going to try to talk about regression, and I'm not going to talk about the actual numbering and statistical process control specifically. I'm going to do those on videos because you need to see the numbers where that's talking about. This is purely audio format, so there's no way in heck I'm going through all that stuff. And even if it did, I'd be going through specific concept very deliberately. We're going to talk about statistics overall because there's something that's left behind when people start looking at like statistical process control, Pareto, and any of these other ways of doing it. There's problems here. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is it really needed in your process? So, is it appropriate to the process? If you have a requirement to a 100% inspection, you don't need a whole lot of statistics. Like statistical process control, throw it right out the window. If you're doing that just to meet some kind of requirement, you need to talk to your customer and get that off because you're wasting money. And you're wasting time. So if your process requires 100% inspection, then you collect data and whatnot, but how you analyze it really changes. Like now, if you're doing something that's destructive, if you're doing something that requires, like if you're doing destructive, if you have to do some kind of destructive testing, it's a sample test, and yes, that's where statistics come into play. I mean, you got to make sure you're using the right kind of statistics. But the first, like I said, is it appropriate to the process? And that's driven by the type of inspection. I've already said it a couple of times. If you're doing a destructive type test, if you're doing any kind of thing where you're doing sample, statistics is where you're at. That's where you need to be. If you can get away with it and do it, then yes, the more advanced statistics where you're doing predictive stuff with it and modeling works. Now, it's all about what data is available when you're dealing with that. So when you've got an inspection, you've got a process running, and the information that you're collecting off of that process, that's going to drive the kind of statistics you're going to use. If you're doing something sample-based, then statistical process control items can be used. You can have your run chart with your means and all that stuff, and you can get your sigma and all that going. That's fine. It works great. But if you've got 100% inspection, it's going out the door. First pass yield is more than enough. So you see I hope you understand where I'm getting at here. It's all very dependent on how you do it. You can't just say, well, we're going to do statistical process control. That's the fallacy out there. We're going to save money by doing statistical process control. No, you're not. Because now you got to get somebody who can actually understand this stuff. I get it. I understand it. I use it all the dang time. I'm usually explaining it to people who are supposed to know how to use this stuff. I'm not a statistician. There are people out there that are specialists in statistics only. And they go into deeper stuff than I'll ever try. I understand the concepts, I can speak the language, but it's like I said, it's very important to understand. It has to be appropriate to the process, It has to be, depending on the type of inspection that you're doing, if it's an inspection issue to begin with, and of course the data available between analyzed. Because everything is statistics, and everything can be managed and messed with. But the key is to understand where you're going with it, and understand, is it really needed for what I'm doing here? Does it apply to what I'm trying to get done here? So you really need to look at everything from start to finish, and say, is this the right thing to do? Is this what I need to do? That is usually the hardest part in all of this. People hear, well, we saved, Westinghouse saved money doing General Electric saved money, and the government wants us to do some kind of. You gotta make sure your customer understands what the hell they're asking for. Not only that, this is where the controversy comes into play. I've had customers that would sit there and say, you have to do statistical process control. Okay, where do you want us to do it at? You're the experts, figure it out. Now, I'm a continuous improvement guy, Lean Six Sigma, all that stuff. Okay. But even Toyota, the guys at Toyota in the 1950s, when they came up with the whole lean concepts, you could go through a whole history primer on lean. Ford can do. That's where it really started. Go all the way back to Adam Smith, but I'm not going to bore you with all of those details. But the thing here is that if the customer doesn't need it, they're asking for it, but they don't need it, you need to manage those expectations and educate your customer. Bottom line. Because you're going to start spending money on stuff that you really don't want to go down the road for. And by the time you're getting out of it, you're looking at all kinds of trouble. There are things that you just don't need to do. We've been manufacturing this for 30 years. Yeah, that gets a really bad reaction out of me. Hearing that. We've been doing this for 30 years. That's the wrong thing to say to me. However, there is an argument to that actually makes sense. Yeah, they've been making it like that for 30 years. Why are we doing these extra tests? They didn't need them before. Why do we need them now? It'll save money. How? Nothing wrong with asking that. How? So a lot of people don't like that question to be asked. Now let's talk about implementation of this. First thing I always like to talk about. Now, in order I have here frequency review, KPIs, and display of outputs. Now, the reason why I talk about frequency of review first, that's part of your sustainment. I'm looking at it from sustainment first, where implementation is at. When I've determined the appropriateness of the process, the inspection type, the data available, well, I'm going to have a frequency of review. How often am I looking at the data? I'm going to have a deadline, and I'm going to have a report out. Period. The end. The reason for that is you could have everything else in there, but if there's not a review going on that's feeding decision makers, you're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. You're wasting money. You're wasting time. You need to have somebody reviewing it that's a decision maker. And they've got to have a schedule to do that and hold them to it. Because the minute they stop looking at it, your customer's not looking at it. You see? If your customer's not looking at it, people are going to start asking questions. Why are you doing it? Why are you wasting money on this? See, that's why it's got to be appropriate to the process, appropriate to the inspection type, and make sure the data is appropriate for what you're trying to do. And you have to have that frequency of review. Now, key process indicators, KPIs. This is the data that you're looking at. This has got to be actually something that's actually impacting the process, that actually matters. Because if you're trying to review something and it doesn't matter, what's the point? Why are you looking at the data? Why are you looking at this stuff? Seriously. Why? If it doesn't have an impact, why are you bothering? You don't have time for this. There are other things you have to do. There's other things you have to process. There's other things you have to discover and work out. Now, how do you determine those key process indicators? Well, you talk to the people that are in the process. You talk to your customer. You talk to the supplier of the process. You talk to the customer of the process. What matters to them? What is important to them? Why do they care? What makes them want this done a certain way? So what are the measurements that have to be done? What are the numbers that have to, what's the quantities that have to be there? What are the numbers? If you understand what has to be measured, people will sit there and say, it didn't happen if I can't measure it. It didn't happen if I didn't write it down. It didn't happen if it wasn't recorded. Oh, that happened. I didn't need to record it. I didn't need to write it down. Why am I wasting my time on it? Now, if there's something coming out of it that I can sink my teeth into, that I'm reviewing on a regular basis, and actually matters, the numbers actually have an impact, great. That's what I want. But if they don't, they're not a key process indicator. Now, display of outputs. Well, we don't need to show that to the production floor. Yeah, you do. You display it where everybody impacted by it can see it. Everybody has to be held to account. Everybody has to be held responsible. Everybody has to be notified. It's that simple. If everyone knows what's going on, when stuff starts going wrong, or when stuff starts going sideways, and everybody who knows what's going on, somebody might have a solution that you never thought of. I'm there to solve the problem, but I'm not working on the process. I'm sitting here pulling the numbers out, doing the analysis, making sure that all this other stuff is getting there, making sure that the tools are there to fix the problem. And I come up with solutions. I come up with solutions in that scare people sometimes, because I'll have the solution already in play or starting in play, and they'll be like, "Oh, no, that's not going wrong." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is. Here's my numbers. Here's my KPIs that produce it." And then I can show them. And then if I have a display that shows them the numbers that matter, that actually impact them, that they understand, sometimes you got to teach them what those are. Next thing you know, the solutions happen on their own. They come up naturally. Because they want to protect they want to protect their jobs. They want to make this stuff happen. They want to produce a product that the customer wants, that the customer is going to pay for. Now, overall sustainment. Based on your KPIs, based on the appropriateness to the process, the section type, data available, frequency of review, we establish our goals. This is basic. Goals are basic. You can't have special. You don't need special classes on goals. It's something that's achievable, and you make sure it's measurable. That bottom line. If you don't have something that you can measure, you just don't mess with it. And you have that frequency of review where people have, like, once a month, once a quarter, once a year. I mean, ISO 9000 says there will be a management review meeting of all the elements within ISO 9000 once a year. That means it's audited, it's reported out, and senior management has had a meeting about it where they talked about it and they have action items to deal with issues. And in that, you're setting your goals. It's not, oh, okay, I've been informed, and then move on. No. We do have issues. You will always have issues. Is it something we need to deal with right this minute? Yes or no? If yes, you start establishing goals and teams and start working on it. If no, okay, then we can deal with it. You make sure there's a time frame for whatnot. Who sees the report? Well, it depends. Remember, there's a display of outputs. Everybody sees it. Now, you don't have to show them absolutely everything about it. I mean, there might be some things that you want to keep to just senior management for whatever reason senior management wants it. I mean, they're the ones with the big picture. They're the ones talking the most with the customer, that kind of thing. Kind of natural to do that. Okay, fine. But everybody else needs to see the rest of it. Now, when do you do changes? When the process says you change it. See, everybody goes, we need a Six Sigma Green Belt project. We need a Six Sigma project. We do a lean implementation here. Do we? See, with statistics, you can do a whole lot. But there's a caution here. You need to review the process. You need to see what's actually going on here. Now, if you've got a customer complaint, yeah, that's a project. That's work. You got to do that. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But if you're looking to improve something, you need to go through these steps here. You need to go through this and evaluate your process. You need to make sure that statistics matter. And that the statistics you have actually mean something. Because you can have statistics, you can be collecting data, and all of a sudden go, oh, I've got a problem here, when in reality, you never had a problem. Statistical process control. Okay? That's a big sticking point with me. It's a great tool. I'm not denigrating the tool at all. I've actually got quite a bit of training in that tool. Used it a lot. So here's my story time. Story time with Martin. Settle in, buddies. It's going to be a good one. I remember we had, I was working one machine shop, and we had these metal parts being manufactured, and the customer required statistical process control at different points. Okay, fine, makes sense. Because we're processing thousands, millions a month. It was high volume, high complexity, high volume. It was not simple stuff. And we would pull like 6 items every hour and do multiple measurements. After a while, the SPC, you'd be seeing a CPK of like 2, 3. I'm looking at these numbers going, that ain't right. Something's not right here. The reason why is the machines were dialed in tight. And, they're pulling random samples. I made sure of that. But still, the SPC software was reading it a certain way. And it was so dialed in because they'd done all the improvements on it that you can do on it. And they were looking for another improvement. I'm like, the only way to go do better improvements to make it faster. And they couldn't do that because, they were looking to do that. I'm like, you can't do that. Because at that point, you increase wear on the tooling. And you end up with defective product faster. But no, every now and then you get an operator out there that would monkey around with the machine to speed it up a little bit so they can get a little bit more out that day. Not that they got paid more or anything else like that. They just wanted to be the best and kick out that much. Problem is he was on second shift. The engineering support was on first shift. Oh, we isolated that down. Oh boy. And I did that using the numbers. It was a mess. It was a mess. I mean, we had that figured out. I had that figured out pretty quick though. I mean, it was like I said, it was a mess. But like I said, the problem is that it really wasn't appropriate for what they were doing there. Pass fail would have been fine. Go no go would have been fine. That's all they needed. And they could have just done a sample of that. They didn't need to do SPC on the rest of it. Because the SPC was skewed because of what they were doing. Now, if they'd done a pass fail, first pass heal, okay, see, that works out better for what they were trying to do, and then I could have Paretoed that on the types of failure, and we got to it faster. But no, with the statistical process control, this failure was brewing for months, and we couldn't see it because they didn't have the appropriate type of measurements for what they were trying to do. Well, we fixed that, and I wound up ending up fixing that, and they wound up with a better process afterward. But oh my God, these are the things you got to look out for. Is it appropriate to the process? What kind of inspection are you doing? What kind of data can we get from this? How often are we reviewing it? What are the key data points that actually matter? Who's seeing it? When are they seeing it? What are our goals based on what we've got? When do we change things? Do we change things? All of these things matter when you're using statistics, when you're running with statistics, when you're building all your items in your improvement basket. So understanding the statistics and how they go. You don't need a bachelor's degree in statistics to understand it. You don't need an MBA to understand the statistics. It helps. I have those. Well, at least I have the MBA. I remember spending a lot of time in the statistics class understanding that stuff. And I'm still I was still the one used to understand what the statisticians were throwing out there and trying to explain it to the customer. I'm like, the customer is the one that wanted this stuff. Where's their statisticians to review it? Why do I have to explain it to them? That's what I was thinking. That's not what I was saying. I was actually laughing that I was explaining to them. Like, really? You guys are the one. It's your manuals and drawings we're going from with this, and I've got to explain it to you. Okay, fine, no problem. I don't mind it. I actually enjoy it, actually. But you get some people out there that get pissed about that, and they don't understand. They're like, you're the one giving this to us. How do you not know it? A lot of times your customer is not going to know it. They're not going to understand it. And really they shouldn't. You're the expert. You're the one that knows what's going on. If you got to explain it to them, that's fine. That's what they're paying you for. Your expertise to make it work. So like I said, where statistics are concerned, follow those simple rules and you can apply the right ones. In the videos, I'll talk about different aspects of these things because you got to see them. You got to see them with the numbers working, in an Excel chart doing the actual calculations. Yeah, I probably should do Minitab, but it's on my dime, and I don't have enough dimes for that just yet. So if somebody knows a way I can get more dimes to get what I need to do that, I'll definitely put something together with Minitab. In the meantime, I'm going to put together a video. Some videos. I've already got one now talking about a very basic primer on PFMEAs, process failure mode effects analysis. Very, very basic. It's like 5 minutes. It's not a whole lot to it. But I'm going to do some other ones. I'm going to do a value stream map and a couple of other things in video. They'll be on my YouTube channel. You can get me at Twitter. If you'll just search Martin Hickey, Lean 40MLSS Engineer on Twitter. Martin Hickey on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm on all of those. And you might have found this podcast there. This podcast, of course, is everywhere else. So, talk to you later. Okay, come on. Why is my cursor not working all of a sudden?